Happy Friday morning. Great to be here on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. We're streaming, as always, on the KCMO Talk Radio app. And little groggy getting in here this morning after the big night with Guy Benson last night. But it was a fantastic event. We had an outstanding time. And it was so great to see so many of you out there supporting this radio station, Guy Benson, and Kansas City as a whole. And John Anthony was there. He had something to wear, and he looked great.
Thank you very much. I'm going to have to check with Department of Transportation. I may have to strap some red flags because I'm dragging butt today.
Yeah. That's 2 nights in a row for me.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm starting to feel like you, John. Jeez, you get me out of a Royals game and then the event last night, and woo, boy, I agree. We're all dragging a little bit, but it was well worth it last night for a fantastic time. Guy was funny. He was on point. He was jovial. He met every single one of our listeners at our Step and Repeat. They all got a photo with him, and everything went off just really well. Keatsman was great as always, and Guy was telling some great stories last night about Trump in 2016 and 2024 and when he knew Trump was going to win. He was outstanding.
He is smooth with that impersonation, isn't he?
He does a pretty good Trump. He does.
He's good with it, though, because he'll just do a few words. He doesn't try to carry it, but he nails it.
You're right. He doesn't overdo it, and that's key. But he uses it for a few words in a way that makes it sound really good.
McDonald's in his, we like it all. Or how he just nails that. That's so funny.
Yes. That was really good. He's got to break out his Trump more on the show because he does
Agreed.
a pretty good Trump. He clearly has practiced it to the point where he's got it down to a T. But you're right. He was telling the McDonald's story from, of course, the election when Trump worked at the drive-thru. And he said that was one of the moments when he knew Trump was going to win. He said that and the garbage truck moment. He could tell by how the Trump campaign was acting and how loose they were and how much fun they were having compared to Kamala, who was just miserable as could be. He said, you don't look at the polls. He's like, don't look at any of that. Just look at how the campaigns are acting. What's their body language? What's their confidence like? He said Trump was having so much fun down the home stretch. It was so evident that, one, he had internals telling him that he was in a tremendous spot going into Election Day on November 5. But, if Trump thought he was losing, he would not have been acting like that. He would not have been doing YMCA dances. He would not have been putting on, the McDonald's drive-through attire. He would not have been on that stage in, believe it was Wisconsin, as a garbage truck driver giving speeches. He wouldn't have done that. And he said those 2 moments in particular made me realize that this guy's in a great spot going into Election Day. And rewind 8 years prior to 2016 when he told a fantastic story about, Trump's team literally not having a victory speech written. It's like, what? Now, there had been some rumors and reports of that before, but he told that story firsthand, having been in the green room all night with Fox News back in 2016. And he's like, yeah, they had nothing lined up, like nothing whatsoever. They were all ready to start pointing the finger as to why they lost. And then, of course, Trump shocks the world. So we were so grateful to see a lot of you out there last night and supporting us and supporting the station, supporting Guy. And we hope you had a fantastic time. Got to meet a handful of callers as well who showed up last night. So that was just a great evening. And if you want to check in with us this morning, 913-408-7957. But my guess is most people who were there last night are currently sleeping. So we've got the early morning crowd who maybe couldn't make it out. Or maybe you were there, but you also got a quick turnaround time. Garner was there last night. He got about 4 hours of sleep.
Yeah.
Going back up to St. Joe, coming back down this morning. So you're looking good, buddy. Nice work.
Thanks. It's the 10-minute power nap I had in the parking lot before I came into the building.
The old 10-minute radio power nap. That's well done, my man. Very nice job. Well, if you were going south on 35 last night, you may have run into a mess on the interstate. I did. Obviously, these two guys didn't, but I was like, what the heck is going on? We were blocked off from about Shawnee Mission Parkway, and it wasn't evident what was going on. So we had to get off at, I think, 75th Street, kind of weave our way through all the different car dealerships and get back on 35 South, coming back home from the event last night. But then it was 35 North that was backed up for miles, right around 95th Street, give or take. And I couldn't figure out what the heck was going on. I mean, there was nothing. TV had nothing. It wasn't clear what was going on, but it was backed up for miles northbound on I-35, right about 95th Street. So what happened here, and this is from KMBC Channel 9 this morning at about 1 a.m., there was a theft at the Quick Trip near 95th Street and I-35 last night that led to a police chase and a standoff on the highway.
I saw that.
Yeah.
I wondered what that was. I was driving the station vehicle back from the event, and I was on the highway going the other direction, and I saw that there was a car, and there were like 8 police cars encircling this car. And I was like, what is going on?
Yeah.
That's it. I drove right by that.
It was not clear to me because it wasn't an accident. I was like, where's the pile up here? What's going on? And everything was at a standstill. So Lenexa police said that officers responded to the store for a theft, but the suspects fled when the police attempted a traffic stop. The vehicles then continued northbound on I-35. Several lanes were closed near 67th Street as the suspects stopped on the interstate but refused to exit the vehicle. 2 suspects were eventually taken into custody. Boy, you know what we needed down there at 95th Street and I-35? We definitely needed a homeless shelter at the old La Quinta Inn and Suites. That is totally what that part of town needed. Thank goodness that thing didn't come to fruition last year. This is the kind of stuff that some of your local leaders around notably Johnson County continue to lobby for. Stuff that is just going to bring more bad news to the area. They don't care, though. They just don't care. They're not interested in wondering what are the downsides of continuing to just try to cram people in the tight spaces, apartment complex after apartment complex, homeless shelter here, homeless shelter there. What might come of that maybe isn't good for the city of Lenexa? What might come of that might not be good for the city of Overland Park, Lee Summit, Olathe, fill in the blank? They just don't care. And I'm not saying there's a direct correlation between last night and the central planning of these city councils, but this is the kind of stuff that you're more likely to have to deal with when you go ahead with the plans that many of these city councils have in our suburban districts and communities. And it was a mess last night. It took us about 45 minutes to get home. It should have been about a 20-minute trip. And it's because of that on Interstate 35. So there is a lot of obviously breaking news happening as well, not just locally, but around the country and around the world for that matter. You have Israel, who, of course, has launched a large-scale attack on Iran's nuclear facilities. They have killed multiple commanders as well. So we are going to have an update from Eben Brown of Fox News Radio coming up here in just a few minutes on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. And as always, we are streaming on the KCMO Talk Radio app. I had one guy come up to me last night. He is a federal worker here in Kansas City. And in the last few months, he has had to go back to the office because of Doge and Trump and everything else. Now, he's fine with it. He's a worker. He's a grinder. He's like, yeah, they should have us back in the office. But he's in the basement of the building, so he can't catch us anymore on the app or the stream because he doesn't have cell service in the basement. And I said to him, I think they stuck you down there because they know what you think about the administration. They know what you think about Doge. They know that you're listening to this show, and they're making it impossible for you to consume this content. The good news, he's got us on the podcast. So he's disappointed he doesn't catch us live every morning anymore. But he said, don't worry, I got you on the podcast. I listen around lunch when you guys upload the podcast. But he cannot catch us live because he's a federal worker. They brought him back to work, and they jammed him in the basement where he has no Wi-Fi and no service for his phone, which I didn't get into the details, but I'm like, what are they doing with you in the basement where you have no internet service with the federal government? Maybe I don't want to know. Maybe we'll keep that to ourselves. But we will have Evan Brown here of Fox News Radio coming up because he is going to give us the latest on this Israel attack on Iran's nuclear program that also happened to kill multiple top military officials. And this is something that obviously is breaking in real time. They launched more than 100, and also what you've got now is Israel, looking at this breaking news on Fox, launching more than 100 drones towards Israel. So that is the response, part of the response that you knew was going to come. So Evan Brown of Fox News will get us all the latest on this coming up on KCMO Talk Radio, 95.7 FM, and streaming on the KCMO Talk Radio app. 7:05 on a Friday morning. We have made it to the end of the week. Dragging a hair after the great Guy Benson event last night, but it was incredible to see 200 of our closest friends out at this event at Boulevard Brewing. Guy Benson was tremendous. John was there. He actually had something to wear. And you looked sharp, man. That pink button down. Don't sell yourself short.
Oh, hey, modest but chic.
It was a good look.
Yeah.
It was a good look.
I could throw something together when the yearbook pictures come around.
Yeah, I know. Now you got to figure out what to wear for the protest this weekend.
Well, yeah, I know. I was waiting for the Converse high tops and tube socks.
I know. Don't worry. We'll get you hooked up. A listener hooked up Mark with his Harvard hat this week, so maybe we can get you the Chuck Taylors and the tube socks and the Mexican flag you can wave around.
We were
as well.
working on a picture with Mark's degree, his certificate. We're going to put it on a box with that velvety cloth and his hat there and make it look, like the beginning of the TV show Coach has all of his trophies and stuff.
Oh, that's great. Well, Mark's on vacation. Garner was out there last night, and he's here again this morning.
Hardest working man in showbiz.
You ain't kidding, man. You ain't kidding. Got up to St. Joe, back this morning, a little 10-minute power nap in the parking lot. You're looking good, brother.
Thanks. I'm ready to roll.
Good stuff. Well done last night. It was fantastic, and it was so great to see many of our listeners out there having an outstanding time. So, and thank you to Guy Benson. He was at the airport early this morning, texted me, said he had a great time, and enjoyed meeting all of our listeners last night as well.
I like genuine people like that. It wasn't a shtick like, okay, what time am I on, and then come out and do the thing. He was just him.
Yeah.
I like that.
And that was the feedback from a lot of listeners as well. He was just a regular guy, and he was really, I think, taken aback. Because when you're doing a national show, you're sitting in a studio, and even we experienced this a little bit, where you really feel like you're talking to yourself a lot of the time. Never mind when you're doing a national show and you're talking to cities all over the country, but then you show up, you get out of your bubble, you come out to Kansas City from New York or D.C., and you're like, wow, these people are locked in every day. They're super fans, and they love what we're doing. And I think for a guy like him especially, I get to bump into people all the time just being here in Kansas City. He's kind of in that D.C. or New York bubble. He gets out in the God's country. He's meeting real listeners, real people, and it gives him that jolt of energy that I think is good for him as well, John.
It is invigorating to your point where we block it out. You might remember the first time you were ever on the air and you think, everybody's listening.
Yes.
Everybody's going to hear me, and you're paranoid.
Yeah.
But then after a while, it's like, I'm just talking to you. I can see you, but, that works that way, and Mark's here.
Yeah.
But I just feel like it's just us.
Yeah, exactly right.
And so...
And that's for him.
It's kind of weird.
He was loving it last night. So it was great to see a lot of you out there.
And meet people.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. John, you knocked it out of the park last night, my man. Every event. Where's John? Where's John? Where's John? Here he is.
Create a demand. None of this Katy Perry, I'm everywhere stuff.
Well, speaking of people who are not here, Quint Lucas. I got to tell you something yesterday. I thought something was off with Mayor Q. He was much less verbose yesterday than he normally is. And I don't know if you picked up on it in our interview yesterday. We do it every Thursday with the mayor of Kansas City. And boy, I can't tell you, everyone's got an opinion on my weekly interviews with Mayor Q. Every time we go out. I love the interviews with Mayor Q. I hate your interviews with Mayor Q. All I ask is, are you listening? And trust me, I know the answer to it, and it's yes, based on the numbers. But neither here nor there. Something felt off about the call yesterday. He was not nearly as long-winded as usual, and there was a slight delay I noticed between the two of us. And I was like, what's going on here? And I didn't think anything of it. And then I'm recording Week in Review yesterday, Kansas City PBS's weekly show that will air tonight at 7:30 with Nick Haynes, who will be here in 1 hour. And Nick Haynes tells me that Mayor Q is currently in Germany. And I'm like, nobody told me that. And then last night, I'm flipping around the news when I get home, and I see he does a hit with Fox 4, and he's on like a FaceTime call, and there's just green trees behind him. It's not evident where he is. It could have been anywhere in the world, but it was all of a sudden connecting for me. Now, I guess he's there on some kind of a World Cup exploratory deal. What was he in Qatar a couple weeks ago, and now he's in Germany, and it's not clear to me what the point of any of these trips are, but as long as we're not paying for it or you're not paying for it as the Kansas City taxpayer, I guess it's kind of whatever. But I was like, boy, that's a little sneaky. He was in Germany, didn't tell us, but it all added up to me once I saw Nick Haynes yesterday late morning. Now I know why the answers were a little tighter. Now I know why there was a slight delay on our phone call. And I also know why he also told us this yesterday as to whether or not he's going to be attending any protests this weekend.
I am not taking part in any protests. That being said, I respect the First Amendment, respect everyone's right to come and share their voice. I expect everybody to be peaceful. I expect them to follow our rules, and I expect everybody, even if they're counter-protesters, to be peaceful. Kansas City is a place that knows how to exercise its rights, but it's also a place that knows how to respect others. I'm expecting that this weekend. In the event that there's anything that does go awry, I believe the Kansas City Police Department is more than ready to handle whatever may happen. And I'm not casting aspersions on those who may be protesting or those who are counter-protesting. We just make sure that KCPD is always ready, as mayors around all of America's major cities, like Karen Bass, are doing.
So he's gotten out because he's not going to be here tomorrow.
It dawned on me now. I thought, well, that's odd. Something on in town and he's not going?
Yeah.
You know, I thought, well, maybe he's hanging at home, got the swim trunks on and the blue sports jacket with the red tie. Or, hanging out with young Bennett, whatever. I thought, okay, family weekend maybe.
No,
I see.
He's not here.
I see.
So he's got a convenient reason for why he can't be at the No Kings protest tomorrow, as it's been dubbed. Now, I don't feel duped. It's not like they said he was here and he's not going to be here, but he conveniently has a reason to not be at the No Kings protest tomorrow. He's out of town. But this sets up a difficult conundrum for the mayor of Kansas City. His supporters, who would expect him to be at these protests tomorrow, and these protests are happening all over the country. There's like 5 around Kansas City. There's one down on the plaza, the No Kings protest, as it's been dubbed. And it's a protest against President Trump, who's acting like a king in their eyes. Interestingly to me, the party that didn't have a primary last year is now calling Trump a king. But you guys didn't even let your own voters vote on your nominee. So spare me the high ground and the nonsense about who's a king and who's not. But once again, I'll set that aside for a second here. His supporters are going to say, we need you out at that rally. So at some point in the next 48 hours, are we going to find out from the mayor's office that he's in Germany right now? And even Fox 4 or any of the local TV outlets that reached out to him yesterday to talk about the stadium deal, they were probably like, hey, can we get this guy on camera? And his office said, what? You can get him on FaceTime? Did that not tip them off? Are they not wondering where he is? Did they not ask? Were they told and not reporting on where he is? Like, I genuinely didn't know. I mean, we get the call every Thursday morning at 7:35 from the mayor, unless his team tells us otherwise. That's it. I mean, we just wait for the phone call. And to his credit, the guy's on time every week. He's never late.
Right.
And if he's ever going to miss it, I know about it ahead of time. So I'm like, he calls in. It shows up on the caller ID.
Yeah, I picked up the phone. I didn't hear, this is the mayor. So I didn't suspect anything.
No, there was nothing to suspect. But if you were looking for the TV interview, if you're a reporter in town and they're like, yeah, we can do like a FaceTime and record it at 3 o'clock today or whatever the time is, well, that would send up your spidey senses, would it not? And then that brings up a whole nother story here. Well, what's he doing there? Why? No one's reported on that as far as I can tell. If I missed it in local media, I'm happy to be proven wrong, but I have not seen anything from our local television stations in particular about the fact that he's in Germany right now. And unless I had bumped into Nick Haynes yesterday for KCPT's Week in Review, I would have had no clue any of this was going on. Now, the mayor is also upset at Governor Kehoe because Governor Kehoe has announced, and he put this out yesterday, that he has activated Missouri's National Guard ahead of planned demonstrations this weekend. Why is the mayor upset about that? And this is another one where he should have just stand down. It's okay to stand down. We'll get you the details coming up on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM in Germany right now. So he will not be attending the big protests happening around Kansas City and around the country this weekend, the No Kings protests, as they have been dubbed. The mayor is very upset with Governor Kehoe, who announced yesterday that he has activated the National Guard for these protests. The mayor saying, quote, Mayor Lucas is concerned with enhanced state enforcement for one set of protesters, but no action or aid to local law enforcement when neo-Nazis march through Missouri's urban streets. Now, that is in reference to what happened a couple of weeks ago when you had this Patriot Front group show up at World War I, march around Kansas City, and then get in U-Haul trucks and leave. No one knew they were coming.
Yeah.
I mean,
what
I'm not
the cops gonna do,
defending
help them.
them.
Get back in the truck?
I'm not sitting here helping defend them. I'm just sitting here saying that no one knew they were coming. How can he activate the National Guard when no one knows this group is here? It's not a defense of them. It's just that's not a fair analogy to make against Mike Kehoe. Says the mayor has confidence in responsible protesters using their First Amendment rights to peacefully protest and be in compliance with the law. Maybe, but you know what? I'm sorry. Based on how Kansas City handled protests 5 years ago, I'm not going to give them the benefit of the doubt, even though I do think we're in a position here where the mayor has learned a lesson and would not let that happen again. And Kansas City did handle things much better than other cities did during the Summer of Love. But come on, let's not ride Kehoe and say, like, basically, he didn't do anything for the neo-Nazis. Completely separate situation. Completely separate. 913-408-7957. Eli in Kansas City, got a minute, my man. It's all yours.
Hey, Pete, I think there's two big reasons why Mayor Q has been quiet on this Germany trip when, normally he's very ready to talk about the big things he's doing for Kansas City. One, his friendship with Karen Bass, he saw her get ripped apart when she was in Ghana during the LA fires. And if this protest goes south and he's not in Kansas City, he knows that he's going to get criticized for that. And then second, he's criticizing Kehoe's deployment or making ready of the National Guard. He wants to be critical of that, but he's not at his post. He's not boots on the ground to be here to direct city services in the event that there's an emergency. And so I think he recognizes that advertising that he's not even in the country makes it a little difficult for him to, with a straight face, criticize Kehoe for taking control.
Excellent point, Eli. Great call. 913-408-7957. Yeah, we've got the best listeners in Kansas City. We already knew that. We also have those of you who are willing to be investigative reporters as well. I got this on the text line, 913-408-7957. That's also how you join us on 95.7 FM. So this is a post on LinkedIn yesterday from Tim Cowden. He is the president and CEO at the Kansas City Area Development Council. And he posted on LinkedIn about this trip to Germany that he's currently on with Mayor Lucas. Now, once again, Mayor Lucas has not posted about this. He called us yesterday from Germany for his hit, and I had no idea at the time he was in Germany. I learned about it from our own Nick Haynes, Kansas City PBS, when I was there yesterday. But there is nothing on the mayor's social media right now. And Mayor Q is not afraid to promote Mayor Q. There is nothing on his social media suggesting that he is anywhere other than Kansas City. And he's been there for at least a couple of days. He is not going to be, as he said yesterday on the show, at the No Kings protest tomorrow. And I just didn't think much of it. I said, okay, I guess he's not going. That's great. I didn't think it was because he wasn't even, forget in Kansas City, he's not even in the country. So this post from Tim Cowden is on LinkedIn. And it reads, in Germany, spreading the why for our region. Some might ask, why now with so much geopolitical noise and macroeconomic uncertainty? Our team's approach is to play the long game, focus on the relation over the transaction, and don't follow the crowd. Be contrarian. Our state partners have applied this approach, and the KC region is right there, shoulder to shoulder with them, sounding the bell globally for opportunities across our region. We greatly appreciate the partnership of these regional leaders who have joined on the tour de force for KC as we zig while the mainstream zags. How about you try to prevent small local businesses from leaving Southwest Boulevard because they're getting broken into multiple times a month? Could you start there? Is that too much to ask? I know no one cares about the mom and pop businesses anymore, but I mean, for crying out loud, you got small businesses in River Market, downtown, Crossroads that are like, guys, I got to spend thousands of dollars here on cameras for my business because it keeps getting broken into. We don't have the cops on the roads that we need. We don't have the deterrence in this city. We're doing a bad job, although we're getting better, I think, in the prosecutor's office. Still a ways to go on that front. But don't worry, the small businesses threatening to flee left and right, but we got the head honchos in Germany this week. Make it make sense. Steve, go ahead. You're on KCMO.
Hey, Pete, I don't blame Mayor Kubert at all, man. These guys want nothing to do with Trans Tifa and what's going to happen tomorrow. He's smarter than Gavin Newsom. I don't know if you saw this. Gavin Newsom's polls have absolutely tanked according to the newest Atlas poll, which is the most accurate. He's running behind Cory Booker at 10%. You got AOC at 20 and PD at 30, which is the natural leader of the party. So, the mayor is not going to be some leader. If this thing goes south tomorrow, he's not going to crack down on anybody. He's worthless. So I applaud him for staying away. At least Kehoe will
but you can't applaud him for something he didn't really plan. He probably had this Germany trip on the calendar months before the No Kings protest came up. So you can't really give him any credit for this, Steve.
Well, this is the base. You have to understand this is the Democratic Party base, and they got to run from these people.
That's the thing. He's got to figure out if these people are like, hey, where were you on Saturday? At some point, it's going to come out that he's in Germany right now. I mean, it's amazing. TV media hasn't reported on it. We're the only ones who have got, as far as I can tell, have talked about this right now. And the TV folks, they should know better than us because they were interviewing him yesterday about the Chiefs-Royals deal, and he's on a FaceTime call. Did anybody ask why?
Well, Pete, you're absolutely correct. I mean, it is like the previous caller said. This thing could really go bad if he's sitting in Germany and there's a lot of violent protests. I don't think there's going to be anything violent since Kehoe called in the guard. But yeah, this is a horrible look. But at the same time, I mean, this is the new the Trans Tifa has taken over the Democratic Party.
All right, you used the line once. You use it twice, and I mean it's fine. It's a good line, Steve, but you're running out of material. Thanks so much, buddy. I appreciate you. Have a great weekend. Here's the thing. I don't think tomorrow, honestly, is going to be violent. At least not in Kansas City. I don't. We saw the protest on Tuesday night. I mean, it is frankly an unimpressive group. They don't really know what they're doing. It's just Trump derangement stuff. I really don't think we've got the cream of the crop here. And I think that KCPD has learned a lot from 5 years ago. I don't think we've got the best of the best here for this whole No Kings protest. And I appreciate Kehoe calling in the National Guard. That may also be a deterrent. But honestly, even if he didn't do the National Guard stuff, I'm really, and I may be naive on this, but I really don't think it's going to be much tomorrow. I think it's going to be a bunch of washed up hippies and young people with man buns coming out of their mom's basements, and they're going to hold up a few signs and go home.
Yeah, they read Sun Tzu's Art of War, right? So there's going to be a little crowd here, and then they're going to move over here to the other ridge. And you go, whoa, they're over there, too. Oh, there's a lot of them.
Yeah, that may be it.
Wah, wah.
Oh, man. But Steve's right. I mean, if something, God forbid, does spiral out of control, then Mayor Q's going to have himself a lot of explaining to do if he's in Germany, which he is. On the text line, Pete, let's have a counter-protest with the Patriots. No. Don't give them the time of day. Drive by tomorrow, maybe give them a wave if you happen to be in the area, maybe a smile and a laugh. That's it. Do not give them the time of day with a counter-protest, please. Just go about your life.
Yeah. No, Kevin had checked in from Overland Park just before the break saying that maybe Q would be glad Kehoe mobilized the group if the white supremacists showed up as a counter-protest.
Oh, yes. Good point.
It might be. I don't think things will spiral out of control in Kansas City, A, because they haven't, and B, because Kehoe has already drawn the line.
Yeah, that's a good point as well. Mark in Overland Park. Go ahead, Mark. You're on KCMO.
Good morning, Pete. I was in attendance last night at the event. It was a wonderful time. The first person I wanted to specifically meet was John, and I met John and his wife, had a great little conversation, got a chance to catch up with you and your wife, Kate, and it was a wonderful evening, and that Q&A at the end was wonderful, the way Guy handled that, and all three of you, Kevin, and I had my hand up, but I ran out of questions, or the last one was up, and that's when Jeff, who was sitting at my table, the police officer, and I didn't even realize he was a police officer. We'd been chatting all evening until about halfway through the event, and because he was talking about Jeff Collier had operated on his hand and on Christmas Day, and telling me what a great guy Jeff Collier was. And I didn't realize that he was, and then obviously at the very end he got to get up and talk, and I thought that was a very special evening.
Well, thank you for that, Mark, and it was great to meet you last night and see you out there, and we're glad you had a great time and got to meet Guy Benson as well. Did you get your photo with Guy last night?
I did.
Good.
I did. Good. And it was just a great time, and when you were doing the Q&A, I so wanted to stand up. You asked everybody in attendance to say their name, and I wanted to stand up and say, "Hi, I'm Larry from Prairie Village."
Well, I would have known that was a lie based on the voice, but that would have been very funny there, Mark. Well done, my man.
We'd have got the listeners that were in attendance. They would have got that in a hurry.
Yeah, so. I did get some questions. Hey, Mark, thank you, buddy. It was great to see you last night.
Thank you.
I did get some questions about Larry from Prairie Village. And here's the weird part. Not the weird part, but it's rare to actually meet some callers. It just seems like, callers are less than 1% of your audience. So people always think all the callers show up to your events, and that's usually not the case. We did have a couple show up last night. It was great to see them and put a face to folks. But you don't usually meet callers because it is typically such a small percentage of an audience. But it's amazing how many people were like, "You talked to Larry?" It's like, guys, I don't know Larry. I mean, I wish him well, but we haven't heard from Larry since before the election. So I hope he's doing okay there in Prairie Village. Maybe you look for the house that's got an Iranian flag hanging outside of it as of this morning. They've dumped their Ukrainian flags for the Iranian flags, maybe. I don't know. But I don't know. I wish them well. You hear from people and then they leave and you hope they're okay. But I've got no way to track them down. It's not like I've got all your IDs sitting here after you call into the show. So all you can do is pray and wish people well and hope they're doing okay. But, yeah, it would be good to hear from someone like Larry in Prairie Village, just to check in at least. 913-408-7957. It's great to be here on a Friday morning. Nick Haynes at the top of the hour. Kansas City PBS will be joining us. I will be on his show Week in Review coming up tonight at 7:30. On Tony'sKansasCity.com, great blog here in town. This came down yesterday. Show me deadline for Kansas City stadiums revealed? Question mark, exclamation point from Tony's Kansas City. Not so much. No. Tony writes here, hidden in local reporting, this detail is important to highlight and offers a peek at a timeline for billionaires playing with taxpayer cash. He writes here, Wednesday at the Capitol, House Minority Leader and Democrat Ashley Awney was asked about the teams. She hopes they make their decision on where they want to build or renovate by their imposed deadline of June 30th of this year. Well, that wasn't buried. We talked about it yesterday, and I give a lot of credit to House Minority Leader and Democrat Ashley Awney out of the Northland, who said this.
We bent over backwards here in the Missouri legislature to deliver them something by the end of their imposed deadline of June 30th, and I would very much like for them to hold true to that deadline and let us know where they're going before that.
Yeah, she's right. They literally just held a special session in Missouri, meaning all the politicians had to go back to Jeff City after being there for a few months to get this bill passed for the Chiefs and the Royals. Now, I'm not saying you got to sit here and lose a lot of sleep over that or feel bad for them. I mean, they signed up for it. They ran for office. But still, they went back because the team said their deadline was coming up. And their deadline, I guess, was coming up, June 30th, because that's when the Star Bond offer ends over in Kansas, right? But I will say that it's a soft deadline. It's kind of a made-up deadline. And if you were to tell me what's the odds that either of these teams roll out some grand plans before their own self-imposed deadline, I would say it's less than 50%. I want to be wrong, but history would suggest they have not really held themselves to their own deadlines for the better part of 2.5 years. So why would they start now exactly? Why? There's no reason for them to. Unless Kansas does hold firm on that. And Kansas basically holds the line and says, listen, we're not extending this deal. Now, could they extend it 30 days? Yes. They have until June 30th to extend their Star Bond offer beyond the current deadline, which is coming up here in 17 days. They could extend it for up to 1 year. If they extend it for up to 1 year, I'm packing up. I'm closing up shop. I can't do it. I mean, we're all sick of this. Maybe it's 30 days. But even then, what could the teams possibly be waiting to decide in the next 30 days? You guys have had a year to figure this thing out, right? You've had a year to put this whole thing together. And they haven't done anything to show the taxpayer that, frankly, they're acting in good faith at all.
I think they're waiting for Buc-ee's, right? Buc-ee's coming in over there. Once that's in, then now you got something to talk about.
Yeah, that's true. Gosh, I can't wait for that Buc-ee's. I was down at the one in Springfield coming back from Table Rock.
Yeah, did you stop?
Yeah, oh yeah. Oh yeah, it was great.
Got to get that brisket sandwich.
Have you been down there?
Yes.
Oh man, isn't it good?
It's almost worth driving down there. Head on down to Lambert's, get a throat roll, and come back.
Yeah, that's right. And with Trump getting these gas prices down, it's actually not a bad deal anymore. That's right. That's good. So yesterday, when I was at Kansas City PBS recording the Weekend Review show, Dave Helling was on the show with me. And Dave and I are fine. I mean, we're cordial to each other. I don't think he's necessarily my biggest fan. I respect what his career has been in this town, even though I've been very critical of his former employer, the Kansas City Star. But I absolutely respect his career and the work he's done here in Kansas City. So I've got no issue. But, maybe he's just kind of old school. I don't know. It's never all that warm and chummy. But we did have a very good chat after we got done yesterday. And the one thing that we both agreed on here is that the sports talk shows in this town have done an awful job on this stadium story because they don't understand it. And it's not a sports story. I know some of you text in and you're like, oh, I'm done with you're talking sports again. It's like, no, I guess if you think of it like Chiefs and Royals, it's sports, but it's not sports. It's politics. It's local news. It's local government. And that's why the sports guys have just failed colossally when they talk about the story, because they don't really understand the dynamics. They have maybe one local politician they kind of know who feeds them stuff that oftentimes is wrong. They have no way to cross-reference or cross-check it, and then they end up saying dumb things on the air that make them look like fools. And maybe their audiences don't really hold them accountable for any of that because maybe they don't know any better. I don't know. But it hasn't been a good look for any of them throughout this entire process. So we totally agreed on that. And the other thing that Dave and I were talking about is the fact that we can't figure out the math in the star bonds. And I've said this before, but the one thing I want to add to the conversation after talking to Dave yesterday was this. Not only do I think that the Chiefs and Royals are struggling to draw a star bond district that would generate the revenues to pay off the bonds on a new stadium, I also think if they were serious about Kansas and they really wanted to put the screws to Missouri in the last few weeks, they would have rolled out something on the Kansas side that would have really applied the pressure. Now, they got what they wanted, but they would have rolled out some kind of a visual to say, here's what a theoretical stadium would look like in Kansas, and here's what that star bond district would entail. And they never did that. Now, they got what they wanted, but they never did that. And I can't help but think that that's because Kansas has never really been a serious option for them. It's simply been largely a leverage play. Now, we'll find out in the weeks ahead whether or not that's an accurate prediction and portrayal or not, but I keep coming to that conclusion based on what they haven't said and based on what they haven't done. Nick Haynes on the top stories in Kansas City just after the news. Pete Mundo on KCMO.